Welcome to an overview of the child labor in Nepal investigation. In this investigation, you're trying to figure out how to respond to the question, why does hazardous child labor continue to exist in Nepal? Today, as you begin learning about child labor in Nepal, instead of memorizing names and dates from a textbook, which is really hard and not particularly interesting, you will instead read and hear several different perspectives. You'll discuss with your classmates, and then make your own decision about what it all means. Read.Inquire.Write lessons are called investigations. Throughout each investigation, you're looking for evidence to figure out how to respond to a central question. You'll notice that our investigations never say answer a central question. Instead, you'll hear us ask you to respond to a central question. That's because we believe there is not one right answer. There could be multiple answers. So we want you to respond to the question with evidence. Read.Inquire.Write investigations support you in building a case for your argument using evidence and reasoning. Over time, this kind of work will strengthen your reading, writing, critical thinking, and problem-solving skills. In this investigation, you're trying to respond to the central question, why does hazardous child labor continue to exist in Nepal? So what does child labor mean? The International Labor Organization defines child labor as work that takes away a young person's childhood, their potential, and their dignity. Hazardous child labor is mentally, physically, or morally dangerous, or does not allow children to attend school or forces them to leave school early. The Child Labor Coalition is an advocacy group who is trying to end hazardous child labor around the world. On their website, they publish reports from guest authors. Your task is to first write to the coalition with your argument about why hazardous child labor continues to exist in Nepal. Explaining why child labor is happening is part of understanding how to end it. Then consider the sources you read and support your argument with evidence from the sources and reasoning about the evidence. You will write an interpretation-style essay to respond to the question. Remember, an interpretation-style essay is a type of essay that helps you share what you think about the question based on evidence. Our investigation will guide you step by step in developing your response. Let's review those steps now. First, you'll begin by making connections and building background. You'll complete a see, think, wonder about these pictures here. Next, your teacher will provide you with different sources to read about child labor in Nepal. You'll use these sources to determine why child labor in Nepal still exists. To help you read these sources, your teacher will provide you with this bookmark. The bookmark tool will help you understand, analyze, and evaluate sources about child labor in Nepal. The bookmark prompts you to make annotations or detailed notes about the sources. You'll do this as you read and after you read. For example, in this source, you can see that a student has circled important information about the people discussed in this report on child labor in Nepal. The student also made notes about what those circles mean. You will do the same on your sources, and the bookmark tool will guide you. Making these annotations is really important because they will help you remember key ideas in the sources. This way you don't have to try to remember everything or have to reread everything later. Instead, these annotations will make it easier to determine why child labor in Nepal still exists. In step 3, you will weigh the evidence presented in the sources about child labor in Nepal. You will begin by sorting the sources based on your understanding. Then you will construct and discuss the arguments based on what you have learned from these sources. Then in step 4, you will read and analyze a mentor text, similar to the type of interpretation you will write about child labor in Nepal. A mentor text is a sample of writing that shows you one way to organize and write an interpretation style argument. It includes important parts such as claim, evidence, and reasoning. It's a good example of the way you can structure your own response about child labor in Nepal. Just remember that the mentor text is not exactly what you'll write, and it is not a source. The mentor text is one example of what your essay might look like. Next, you'll use the planning graphic organizer. The graphic organizer is like a roadmap for your essay. It helps you organize your ideas about which sources are most reliable for learning about child labor in Nepal, and it will prompt you to give evidence and reasoning to support your argument. You will use all of the work you've done so far to help you develop this roadmap. You'll look at your annotated sources and you'll determine what argument you think is strongest, and then make decisions to plan the essay you'll write. Then in step 6, you're ready to write your letter and respond to the central question, why does hazardous child labor continue to exist in Nepal? Be sure to use the sources you have read to write your response and make the strongest argument. We know it's sometimes difficult to start writing. That's why we also include a useful language tool. You can look at this tool to choose from examples of how to start your claim, evidence, and reasoning. Finally, after you have spent some time writing, pause to use the reflection tool. The reflection tool will help you review what you have written so far and set goals for your next steps. The reflection tool reminds you about what to include in your argument. Let's review quickly the 7 steps you'll take throughout this investigation. First, making connections and building background. Second, read and analyze sources using the bookmark tool. Third, weigh the evidence. Fourth, analyze the mentor text. Fifth, complete the planning graphic organizer, deciding on the argument you will make. Sixth, use the useful language tool as you draft your essay. And finally, 7th, review and improve your essay using the reflection tool. As you work through the investigation, make sure to talk with your classmates and others who can support you as you learn about and respond to the central question, why does hazardous child labor continue to exist in Nepal? Good luck!